Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it on a Sunday morning. Thank you, Sean, for that amazing introduction. I hope I live up to it. Okay, so I am a poet as well as an artist. Been sort of doing both since I was 12, and I'm old, so I'll leave it at that. So this is a series that started as a result of my reading. I read a lot, and I was reading a book of Vita, Sackville West, and Virginia Woolf's letters to each other. They had a 20-year friendship, collegial relationship, and they were also lovers for a very brief period of time. And Virginia Woolf sadly took her own life March 28th, 1941, and Vita lived another 20 years. And I've often imagined what their relationship might have evolved into had they continued, had Virginia not killed herself. What kinds of conversations might they have had, or disagreements, or what, would their love affair have reignited? So this kind of conceit is what fueled my interest. So the poems are written as poetic language, but after each title, there is a parenthesis, Virginia to Vita, or Vita to Virginia. So it's as though they were speaking to each other. I will just give you a little brief kind of background. Virginia Woolf suffered from crippling migraines and depression. She's a very famous modernist writer, but she suffered a lot during her lifetime from illness. And because of that, consequently, she was kind of a shut-in. She did not travel very much, whereas Vita was the life of the party. She was a famous botanist, and she was a biologist, and she was a landscape architect, and she was a writer, a novelist, poet. She did everything. And she was very flirtatious, let me just leave it at that, with men and women, right? Whereas Virginia was kind of, in her house. So this is the first poem. Reluctant love poem, Virginia to Vita. I said my heart was no longer accepting applications, when suddenly, like a door to an empty room, you appeared. All my ships had long since pulled under, drowning each hopeful serenader as yet another broken violin drifted up to the surface for air. Above my head, the clouds courted each other like precipitous lovers, and it was as though the whole world was in love, the blades of grass crooking into each other, even the chipmunks chittering sweetly and swaying in the new morning light. I watched the bees make love to the flowers, and still I resisted, standing my dark ground as light advanced through the branches to strike the side of my face. It wasn't the slender finger of God or some itinerant angel. It wasn't the sly ghost of my own past transgressions. It wasn't anything I recognized, but then again, one fugitive heart deserves another. So there is this kind of conversation, and there's an arc to the book, and the book ends with the final poem being Vita realizing that, or being told that Virginia has taken her life. But so there's sort of these ups and downs in their relationship. A madhouse of brutality and slaughter, Vita to Virginia. My life is not a cornucopia of ripened fruit and the endlessly blossoming rose, but a story dreamt by a stoic, a dabbling into the prospects of love, a meandering down the sunlit path that leads to nowhere. I made it all up, dear Virginia, each fantastical search that leads inevitably back to my mother. The diva of hot baths and scented candles, standing on her golden soapbox made of soap, and lying to me about the state of her heart and the world. Striding through these Sissinghurst gardens or barricaded in the Rose Stone Tower, I know now I was never made for love, but the rude extravagances of temporary passion, cut as I am from the high-born cloth of infidelity, my father's lapses and my mother's brutal gaze skewed always in the direction of flesh, a madhouse of brutality and slaughter. What chance did I have to reach you in your gilded spire of self-restraint? I long to know you as no one has before, yet the way is hazy, and these pronouncements small in the face of all you have to offer. Trampling the dust is how I run my race, as squarely you stand in the winner's circle, wreath-bound and holy. So you can see there's some jealousy. Vita was very jealous of Virginia Woolf's incredible gift as a writer, and Virginia was very jealous of Vita's joie de vivre, her huge character. So this kind of comes out in the poems. The secret despot, Virginia to Vita. I think of you on that summer steamer bound for Egypt, with only a water closet between you and the sea and me, so secretly despotic, fallow-hearted, left behind. Yet I swore I would not raise the ire in my blood to stoop to such negotiations. It's true. Distance can be measured literally, but how does the heart comprehend a league or a mile, the interferometer by which we determine our relationship between two distinct bodies of light? Nor can it grasp the time it takes to reach you, longing its only barometer, the lackluster hours spent waiting for the turning of the clock. The heart wants what it wants, and nothing else will do. These dog-eared postcards, a pale approximation of you. So I beg you, sail home to the ornery rooks in the English fields and me, your equally cantankerous foil. One of the things that I discovered during reading their letters is that they were very distinct personalities, right? And Virginia Woolf was a hoot. She called, when she was angry at Vita, she called her Donkey West. That was her nickname for her, and Vita didn't care for that too much. This is another. Virginia was alone, and Vita was traveling through the Mediterranean with her husband and having affairs along the way, and Virginia found out about it. I wanted to write a love poem, Virginia to Vita. I awoke this morning wanting to write a love poem, but I made a pot of coffee instead. I brushed my teeth, I combed my hair, all the while in constant abeyance to the muse, but the day had other plans for me. It's a learned skill to extract tenderness from moments that are not tender. Sweeping the porch, I begin to listen as I never have before, and there in the distance, a nightingale's song transforms the painstaking task into a dance, as round and round my dear broomstick and I go spinning. Emptying the trash, I find a bottle cap the color of your hair, and doing the laundry, I unearth that singular sock you've been missing for years. Once loathsome, mowing the lawn becomes a verdant celebration, a spectacular display as the newly cut grass spells out your name before me. I wanted to write a love poem beyond the scope of love, light-filled, nearly planetary, and remembered for eons. But the day did it for me, and all I had to do was listen. So one of the constant complaints that Vita had with Virginia was, all you do is sit in your golden spire writing these jewels, right? Writing these masterpieces, these modernist masterpieces, while I have to raise 2 children, take care of my husband, write 4 novels a year, travel the world, right? So she thought that her life was not as interesting, right? Because Virginia was, writing these amazing things. And this comes out in their letters. Fritter, fritter, fry, and flay. Vita to Virginia. Just as you are one perpetual achievement, I am the annihilation of reform, the beggar's hysteria, and the good worm's appetite. I entreat chaos the way some people crave chocolate or a scandalous romp in the hay. You've only ever baked a pie in your mind, privileging metaphor over the sweet rapture of baked goods. You once changed a diaper in your dreams, while I fritter my days into nothingness, amusing my son with a toadstool, salvaging the last remnants of light before banging my head down on the pillow. Do you do it by concentration, splitting the epistemological atom? Do you do it by organization, lining your mallards up all in a row? Do you will them into being, Clarissa Dalloway and all the gents? Or are they gifts from a God I could never subscribe to? Oh, that I could be so industrious, lounging on couches with discordant rhymes, but fritter, fritter, fry and flay is the only way to waste my days. So Virginia struggled throughout her life with debilitating depression and anxiety and crippling migraine headaches. Modern historians now believe that she suffered from bipolar disorder, but she spent a great deal of her life in bed, suffering, right? So this is the anxiety monster. Virginia to Vita. I can be as sumptuous as fallen fruit, as sugary and ebullient as a handful of grapes. But today, the anxiety monster ate my mouth, and I am loath to speak, laugh, or even smile. Every day, he consumes a different part of my body until the paralysis is done, and I am reduced to a bowl of blood pudding. I would like to befriend him and proffer crumpets in the dead of night, but he is not easily amused, and sucking all the breath from my body demands another pound of flesh. Often he comes when I least expect him, slamming into me on my stroll through Leicester Square or sipping tea at Fortnum and Mason. The monster changes color rapidly like some deranged iguana. And Mary Shelley once wrote a book about him where only a blind child is spared. More than once, he has hindered my luck in love and other more pedestrian pursuits to the point where my legs refuse verticality, and the best I can do is to lean. Only you are the panacea, the bumper car wedged between my tired body and the gaping jaws of death. So, you see, my love, you must never leave, and if you do, I will learn the art of shrinkage to stow away in the pocket nearest your heart. This next poem is meant to be read in a single breath. I'll do my best. My resolutions lack resolve. Vita to Virginia. It's kind of like a grocery list of complaints. To dispose of my collection of cat figurines, to compose a manifesto for the diligent worm whose declarations daily enrich the dark earth, to learn how to properly saddle a horse, to stop drinking only to resume the next day, to eat more shellfish and fewer cows, to warm my icy fingers by the surging fires of your heart, to compartmentalize my thoughts until they reflect only sunbeams, to bottle those sunbeams for a darker day, to learn to wear lingerie unapologetically, to gamble, to steal something small and blue, to raise parrots, chimpanzees, and snakes, to sacrifice myself at the altar of joy, resisting the endless tug toward despair, to honor the honeybee properly for all they have given to the earth, to appease the madness with a cup of hot tea, to stop judging my worth by the solipsistic words of others, to kill all critics, hotheads, and thieves, to countermand laziness with a single stroke of my pen, to marry myself before I marry another, to run a marathon in my mind, to finally realize my resolutions lack resolve, and I am proud to say there is absolutely nothing to be done about it. So again, Virginia, towards the end of her life, she died in 1941 when the war was in full swing, and she really suffered when that happened. They moved from their home in London to their country house, and she could hear the bombing going on, and she was very sensitive to this. And I think that was part of the reason that she took her life, was it was just too much for her to bear. The saint of lost beginnings, Virginia to Vita. How many boats have lifted their sails to span the equator, while I sit, hooking the tapestry of days back into each other, not to stay busy, but to keep myself safe. These breadcrumbs are the discarded leavings of my life, moments I try hard to forget or turn away from completely, lackluster jewels strewn across the cold floor in the hope I will one day be recovered. If you are the emissary of regret, then I am the saint of lost beginnings. Each momentary inclination toward beauty that somehow never arrives. It's not the getting there that counts, but the fact it occurred to me at all. I don't have worshipers. I hardly have friends. But still the morning light finds me and the anthurium bloom like breaking hearts. So this is the last poem in the book. And it's Vita having realized that Virginia is gone. And she, obviously took it quite hard. The day I heard that you had gone. Vita to Virginia. The sky is a scumbled mass of dwindling grays and browns, punctuated by a sudden onslaught of clouds that dissipate almost as soon as they appear. Where are you if you are not here? What extravagant gamble holds you captive now that you've gone? I look up, expecting to see you enter through the west gate, an expansive apparition, headache-free and blissful in the fields. But the lark is now your emissary, speaking for you where she goes. The river Ouse is filled with all your unspoken words, the tyranny of your father, and you, forever a pugilist in your heart, as small, somber blooms raise their faces in the shallows to greet the sun straight on. I'll meet you at the river, even if all that sustains you is a fierce and northerly wind. We'll have that picnic we always foretold, though ghosts take the place of crumpets, and the once squared cucumber sandwiches we passed between us like sacred jewels now leave me wanting. I'll hold your invisible face in my hands as all that was once substantiated falls away, and I am left divinely windswept and so perfectly alone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.